Alright, I'm just gonna make this so it's a video recording so that whoever comes and see it later will see this. I just want this to be on file that this virus obviously isn't going unnoticed, but I'm gonna show a little study on it because there seems to be a lot of rumors going around about this virus, and I want to make sure we get all the facts on it. So obviously this new virus, the name for it is either SARS-2 or the COVID-19. Many call it the coronavirus, which coronavirus is actually a bunch of different family lines for that. I'll have this note in the description of this video, and this would just be something for everyone if they see this and they want to know what's the truth of this virus without any bias. This will be it right here. So that under a microscope, obviously nothing major. Not gonna get a really amazing picture, show you what it looks like. So they do have live culture of this virus. They know that it's a real virus, not made by anything else, not 5G or anything random. This is a real virus that spreads. And the coronaviruses are new. This strand comes from, they believe that this one comes from SARS, which is severe acute respiratory system symptoms. And it says, just read it. And it is said the COVID-19 came from this SARS came out in 2023. So this strand came out in 2023. It said that this one came out in 2023, and you can see as it continues, we see that that one in 2023 was called SARS. That was one of the major ones they had that time. So I'm just gonna go over the information. So where once this is uploaded, it'll be a real quick live. I just wanted to do a video on it. Might as well just do it as a live, and we can look at this note. You can just basically scan through and click on these different links and see that it is indeed a virus, and it's not something that's new, but this strand is new, but the classification isn't new. So you can see this information on this one, on the SARS. Obviously has information telling us that the COVID-19, the new virus we have, is also called SARS-2. Here's a summary on the virus about all the things about it. I just took a screenshot of one of the pictures. It talks about the different families, as we see SARS, the first one, and then we see Mars, and you can see the fatality rates. Now this one doesn't have the fatality rate of the COVID-19. Should probably just put it on here. It's basically about 2, 3, 4%. So it's the weaker one of the family, but it spreads really fast. That's one thing about this one, that it's spreading really fast. So that's why the death rate seems really high. The only reason the death rate seems high because it's spreading really fast. But it does have flu-like symptoms. It gets cold. Obviously, the body temperature heats up. So it has a lot of respiratory systems, because that's what these viruses are. They affect the respiratory system. Now, we'll talk about where these viruses first popped up. So the first coronavirus was first seen in 1961 in rabbits, and it was having a mortality rate that reached 50% in 1968 and 75% in 1970. So it's proven that these viruses mutate. So that's why we're actually doing this video, because I seen videos where they said it was 5G. But we do have evidence of the virus. Has some other videos of it under a microscope. So we just found a bunch of different labs. So it's not just one organization. It's multiple different labs and facilities that's seeing these viruses. These are the actual virus. Here's another one of the actual virus. If it pops up, I'll just close it and click it again. This is showing it on our. This is one of the labs here. This is in Sinai. He's a PhD, and he's discussing the coronavirus. And here's a live sample of the virus in his hand right here. And I can't really zoom in, but this is pretty much the same as what everyone else has. The other labs found under the microscope. I think this first one has a more closer video, a closer view of it under a microscope right here in a still frame of it. So you can see here. So he took you can see which lab it usually is. It usually have the information on there. So this was a Russian Influenza Research Institute. They just took a picture of it. And the reason why we're doing this video is because I want to show you one thing is that this virus is a real virus. And it is talked about in the Bible. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about is that it is indeed talk about the Bible, as in many viruses are talked about in the Bible. The key word is the word pestilence. That's what this virus is a pestilence. Now, as I talked about before, this is not a new virus. It's something that's been coming out before, all the way since 1961. We've seen strands of this type of virus, which is the SARS. And the other one is MARS, which is the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, the coronavirus. Now, it's because we say coronavirus, we believe that when we hear coronavirus, we believe that it's pretty much is its own thing. But coronavirus is actually the family. I want to show you real fast about these, just a few of the major ones right here. As we said, Mars is the first one, and I mean SARS is the first one. Then we have Mars, and then this one is also called SARS 2, because it resembles SARS, and they also call it COVID-19 because it came out in 2019. So that's why they call it that. Now, this is the thing about this virus. Now, what makes this virus different than its previous viruses is that it has a lower mortality rate. Its fatality rate is basically lower, but it spreads faster. So it's a new mutation that the body obviously most people have never come across this. In fact, I don't believe anyone ever did. It's pretty much like a new virus in the family and for any human to get. Now, you can see it was first seen in humans in 2002, even though it came out in 1961, and we seen it in animals. We never seen it in humans until 2002. So when 2002 came out, that's when we first had the first SARS outbreak. It talks a little bit of history on the SARS outbreak, I believe, right here. And it's in multiple different areas. It's not something that's hard to find because the SARS outbreak it's all over news because it was a real outbreak in 2002, 2003, and it had a high death rate. Not a lot of people caught it, but it was a high mortality rate. So if you was a catcher, you would pretty much die. Yes, there's much. That's why we're doing this, because that's a good thing that you're catching there. There's a big deception, and I'm going to talk about that too. I'm going to talk about the deception. One of the biggest things that we have to understand from a lot of these videos is most of them are done by either people who are not close to the medical field or someone who is in the medical field but doesn't study viruses. they may think that just because they have some scrubs that they are a reliable source of information. And we have to be careful to not take anyone, even if they have scrubs on, as if they're the actual science of the study. Now, I want you to remember something here. Note whenever you see a video, I seen a video recently of they talk about how the virus might be fake. There's a YouTuber who's out there, maybe a few of them, who's talking about that some of these people are using dummies. Now, if you work in the medical field, you'll be familiar with this word, HIPAA. HIPAA privacy law means that cameras usually have to blur faces. You usually can't talk about clients or things like that. If you ever see a video and it's a news outlet and they usually don't blur the face, and if it's a dummy, and if someone says, oh, they're using dummies, if they don't blur the face, then most likely they know that it's a dummy and they're not blurring their face because they know it's a dummy. Now, they do that because of lawsuit concerns and other things. Now, do people really catch this virus?
But then you don't.
So this is just, as you can see, he's holding his own phone.
After I threw up, I could breathe. Once you get to the other side of it, you can breathe a little bit better.
And he's just describing basically what he's going through. And then they talk about the symptoms that are from this. And we see similar symptoms from multiple different people. We're just going to show you a few. All this, of course, will be in the video. This is another man who's in the hospital.
And also have to be very strong. It's a virus.
Turn this up a little bit.
Sometimes you don't really need.
So you can see he has a respiratory system connected to his nostrils. That's just to help him breathe, because what this disease does is it causes the lungs to swell, and it pretty much causes it really hard for them to breathe. Basically fills their lungs with a type of liquid. And here's a woman, she's pregnant.
Guys,
and she's just basically saying stay at home.
39 years old, and I am 26 weeks pregnant, nearly, with my baby. I've just been told that I have COVID-19, and I've been ill for 2 weeks. I've been in the hospital now since Saturday, and today is Wednesday. I have pneumonia on both lungs, and I'm fighting.
Honestly, all these videos will be in the description, and it goes on with as many different people with the same symptoms, with the same ventilation system.
If anyone is thinking, taking any chances,
how's it going, Brandon?
Just take a look at me. I'm in the intensive care unit.
So she, as you can see, she's there. You can hear she sounds very sick.
They've had to sew that into my artery.
So as you can see, she has the same respiratory system. The same ventilation system. And you can see another man.
We have a group text.
This is a woman talking about her husband who's sick.
I wonder what Dad's going to say, and then I realize Dad's not going to be able to respond.
Christy Yousefi's dad, now at the mercy of COVID-19. The 69-year-old breathing through...
He has an oral respiratory system instead of having one in his nostrils. Is in his mouth.
A ventilator in ICU.
That's different respiratory
People think that this is going to be a 2 or 3 day thing. It's not.
It's day 19 for Jeffrey and his sick 64-year-old wife, Steffi, who's at home in quarantine, facing a fever and cough, already having been to the ER.
Different
to know how real this is. People need to know.
Different information on different events. And, the list goes on and on. We can see with different people. We can see where they're going through different symptoms, and you can see the struggle of the workers as they wear their suits and they battle to keep other patients alive. Obviously, they have to blur out the patient's face for HIPAA laws. Well, See, that's the thing. We can't just declare that they're actors because we're seeing multiple people do this. Ruling out that they're actors is saying that because we aren't going through the situation, it may not seem real. But notice how these people are blurred out. Now, I'll agree with you there, Winter. I agree. It may have some human influence to it, because I was talking with some of the brothers, and we seen a lot of different videos where China basically did a big cover up. Now, this is one of the big things you gotta always remember. When a nation goes as far as to cover up information, there's always something that usually ties them to it. Now, do we have that information? No. So we can't make any accusations, but we can declare that clearly China has a part of something, that China had a part of this, where this situation could have been not as bad as it was if China had dealt with it a different way. Yep, and it happened around the biolabs. That's absolutely right. These are facts. These are true things that happen. These are facts. We know this is true. We know that they could have prevented this from spreading the way that it did. And you can see, the situation that people are going through. But we know that real doctors died from this. We know that China was covering up
I just had a flu.
We know that a lot of people died. Now this is talking about people who just are sick. Now we actually have this is just talking about people who recovered. Because it talks about how this disease, like I said, this disease has a 2% mortality rate, so there's a chance that you can get it and survive. So this is just a survivor.
Ever since last Thursday.
That's the good news.
We talked about how he survived pretty much.
It all started earlier this month. Juan returned from a ski trip with friends. Soon after, he wasn't feeling well.
There was an onset of a headache, was nausea.
So he went to the ER.
They told me I had a respiratory cold. Actually, they said viral respiratory infection, which is also known as a cold.
He says when they took his temperature, he didn't have a fever and no cough either.
So
symptoms
he basically
often
went in, and he was just basically a little sick. And if you can see, let's go back. Let's look at the other one, because there's more on that. Let's look at this one first before we go to the next one. This is a bodybuilder.
A nurse practitioner in Atlanta is in recovery after nearly losing his life to coronavirus. He doesn't know how he caught it, but he spent 10 days in the ICU. Reveal investigator Andy Parati.
I was freaking out. I would never forget it, ever.
It started about 3 weeks ago when the 29-year-old nurse practitioner and avid flag football player thought he had a cold.
I was having chills.
Well, that's
shaking,
the thing. Humans can, we've seen that they can mutate. We've seen that humans can change plantation. We know that they can change how seeds grow. But certain things like viruses is more complex than it looks. So they probably could have a way of mutating it, but they wouldn't be able to change it to however they want to change it, because of how complex a virus is. Because a virus is still a living organism.
I thought I was going to not make it.
Humans can manipulate organisms, but they can never recreate an organism because they're not God. And they had times where they tried and they failed. But don't get me wrong, mutating something is something.
Even in the midst of these incredible failures of leadership, every day we are seeing profound and brave actions, often by people we've never even heard of. Essential workers, from farm workers in the fields who are picking fruit right now and don't get a stimulus check because they
don't. This right here is a video of a bus driver. Real.
And we out here as public workers doing our job, trying to make an honest living to take care of our families. But for you to get on the bus and stand on the bus and cough several times without covering up your mouth, and you, man.
He just did a little talk, and pretty much
the mobility of the people that live
dying.
there.
So
He was 50 years old. He leaves behind a wife. Jason Hargrove quite literally put his life on the line for the city of Detroit, for the mobility of the people that live there.
Yep,
Here you have an entire aircraft carrier full of U.S. Navy sailors who've done the same thing.
See, what we're seeing here is the result of what it seems like. If you do a little study on it, it seems like this was a slip up. It seems like this right here, this disease was a slip up, because we know that this started around China, and based off of all the information, it looks like they had something to do with the manipulation of the disease. Now they can say what they want and say that it has nothing to do with that, but we have so many videos of them doing cover-ups that it makes no sense for what they're doing. If you had nothing to do with it, why are you covering up the information and killing doctors, which they did? This is proven for a fact. And you can see the pain and the sorrow that people have. You got too many, for this to be a conspiracy, it's too large. It's too large to be a conspiracy. That's how we know it's not a conspiracy, because it's too large. It's worldwide. And not everyone's going to join in a conspiracy. A conspiracy usually consists of a small group, or a group of people who's willing. Okay, no problem, Israel, no problem. Yeah, I'm just making this so that we have it on file, that we know we're talking about this virus. And this is a man, he's talking about his mother who was lost.
I'm doing this because I want people to understand that this virus, this corona, it's not a joke. You know, I've made jokes about it.
See, this is one of the things that God gives us. He gives us discernment, so we can discern if someone's being honest, if there's someone that's credible,
hard situations,
and someone that is really going through a situation, and someone that's either if they're not, or if they're actors, or if they're
telling the truth. Taken to hospital. Q&E.
We can do discernment here, and we can tell that this person is really in pain. He really had a loss.
And me, my dad, my brother and my sister, and all their family have to just sit at home while she struggles in hospital on her own.
So he's just talking about his
mother.
And
you can't go near her, you can't cuddle her, you can't take her anything. And you praying every day that she's going to come out, that she's going to be all right, everything's going to be okay. That was Monday. Now it's Thursday, and she's gone. She's gone.
But that's the thing. We gotta have discernment with some of these things. We gotta understand whether it's real or where it's not. And I could say, on concern.
Sharon Seiler was only 60 years old. She was healthy, worked out, and had no underlying issues.
She just was a very special, exuberant
talking about his wife that died.
Craig Shipley is holding back the tears as he describes the love of his life, Sharon Seiler.
So there's real stories of people. You know, obviously a death is a sensitive situation. No one really wants to go that public with a death like that. I mean, some people are, because we're in a social world. We're in a world where social media runs the world. So as we're seeing these viruses, we're seeing that people are getting sick. You know, they're catching the virus. We're seeing that people can recover from it. We're seeing that you probably wouldn't even need a vaccine, to be honest with you. Most likely, you wouldn't need a vaccine. Most likely, you'll probably overcome it yourself, to be honest with you. But not all people. Don't think that I'm saying that everyone can overcome it, as we know that some people can't. The government. Yeah, I'm gonna show you guys what's the worst thing about this virus. Is not the virus itself. It's the people. Look what happened as soon as the virus hit. You remember what they did in Walmart when people started fighting? Turn it down a little bit, because if you see when stuff like this happened, people were fighting. They started fighting over simple things. You can see where the situation was pretty petty. You see people gloating about having simple supplies. This person built a a castle of tissues. You see the characters of what the world, what kind of world we're in today. This is what you see from stuff like this. You see stuff start out from simple things. Obviously, this situation could have been avoided. It was a really petty situation, pretty much, and that's what happens. And it gets worse. People become more violent, more aggressive.
My orders are sa police pati
Listen to what this man says here.
military. Pati mga barangay. Shoot them dead.
Because of the coronavirus and thing, they had lockdown. And so they wanted people to, have those when patrol is needed, extra force is used.
Kung gusto ninyo ng barilan, di sige. Gusto ninyo ng pukpukan, sige. I will not hesitate. Let this be a warning to all.
It's because the control. They want to control the situation. That's why they'll either shoot them or they'll beat them. Because you see, because of the lockdown, they're defying lockdown. Because some people can't just stay at home. Some people have to work, like they're spraying these migrant workers. Some people can't stay at home. Some people have to go out. Some people have to risk their lives and work. I know I have to. I live check by check. Sometimes you gotta live that way. Yeah, they break down, but some people gotta break the lockdown regulations to feed their family. Some of them are harder situations than it seems.
ਅਸੀਂ ਘਰੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੈਠ ਸਕਦੇ
So they're doing physical punishment. One shoe on, one shoe off. And then he makes some all types of punishments that they're doing. And we get it, it's a lockdown. Sometimes people, they have to stay in one place, but sometimes it's hard. It's hard for people to stay in one place when the situation can get hard for them.
It's estimated about half of the world's population is now living under some form of lockdown. And while home may be the safest place to be, it's not the case for everyone. Across the globe, women and children who suffer from domestic violence have no escape from their abusers during quarantine.
People are staying home and it gets more aggressive because they don't know what to do sometimes. Then they get more violent.
Activists are already reporting a rise in abuse cases. In Hubei, the heart of the initial coronavirus outbreak in China, domestic violence reports more than tripled in one county alone during the lockdown in February. Activists say they received 175 reports, up from 47 during the same period last year.
They said that the violence tripled.
One anti-domestic violence charity in China says as many as 90% of cases during this period are related to the pandemic.
Wow, my phone died.